Amit, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Jeetu.
Yep, it's great to be here, and I know that you and I have been spending a lot of time together between our two companies. But this is largely a conversation about AI, and you've had a tremendous amount of active work you've done at
Yeah.
your days at Google, and also over here in ServiceNow. Tell us what is happening in AI.
Yeah, no, as everybody talks about AI being the kind of the game changer, and we do really believe that, right? I mean, at Google, when I was working there, we've been building out large language models and a lot of latest technology to automate and run businesses. What ServiceNow has been amazing at is really building out the workflows, which allows companies to operate their enterprise much more effectively and really be able to get value out of it. So AI really is a game changer for that workflow automation side, right? Enterprises are looking for a way to improve their productivity,
Right.
get predictability. They want some kind of technology which will really make it easier for them to connect systems together and really make the employee productive as well as the enterprise productive. So what we're seeing now, I mean, no doubt the first phase which we saw around generative AI, which was more conversational, more content generation. But the real game changer for enterprises I am seeing is really agentic. And agentic being this idea of understanding user intent and be able to break that user requirements into various tasks and automate that thing through AI agents.
Right.
And that is really the game changer and very powerful capability. It can touch every part of the enterprise, every line of business, and really get a lot of value to the customer. So that's really the big opportunity now.
2025, I think, is going to be a year for agentic
No
AI,
doubt,
for
no
sure.
doubt.
Right? So before we jump into agentic, because we're going to talk a lot about that, what are we not talking about in AI that you think needs to be talked about right now?
Well, quite a few things, right? I mean, there are many implications of AI. One, security. Second, around governance. Third is around data access. Things around the whole idea of what it means for reskilling employees, what they will have to do differently than what they were doing before. Some of these things are happening as a conversation, but I think there's not enough clarity or really understanding because this is new technology. It'll take time for people to figure out what it means. Just like what happened with the internet, what happened with e-commerce, what happened with cloud. This is probably even a bigger leap or a change in technology. So there's going to be a lot of conversations around that needs to happen as well.
Do you think the language model providers all become product companies and application providers at some point, or do you think that they stay within AI research on the language side of the?
I think they all, it's a good question for sure, Jitu. I think they're all figuring it out, I would say.
Right.
Right? I do believe the large language, as you were asking me what's happening in AI, the big move initially was large language models are the big change, which of course made a big difference in terms of the technology stack, but they're getting commoditized, to be fair.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be differentiation somewhere or the other, but the pricing is coming down, which is great for all the application developers and everybody who's building a platform on top of that.
Yeah.
Second, I think
Pricing is going down on training or the cost of
the inference
tokens?
mostly. Inference has come down. I think it's 1/20th of what it was last year.
Yep. Yep.
And it's probably even coming down even further, more and more.
But do you think the inference volume is going to go up
Sure.
dramatically?
100%. I think that's what we're seeing, that because more and more applications are using large language models.
Right.
And every application now won't, there's no reason to build non-AI application. You have to be out of your mind to really compete in this market. So AI, I guess, does give you value. So you're going to start using it in every use case.
Right.
That means your volume of users as well as use cases which uses in LLMs to do inferencing will go up. So that's what I think a lot of the large language model companies are betting on. They also want to move up the stack, no doubt.
Yep.
Some of them are starting to provide AI agents, search, but I think a lot of them are coming a little more from the, I would say, consumer
That's right.
volume mindset.
Book me a movie ticket, book me a restaurant.
Yeah.
Not really.
Or search me things for my own day-to-day
Right.
usage as a consumer. I think that using that in the enterprise requires a very different rethink, right? And you have to know legacy systems, you have to know enterprise applications, you have to understand the whole landscape of what it is in the ecosystem around enterprises.
Right.
And that's a heavy lift. You know, you and I have worked in enterprise business for a long time.
Almost too long.
Right? Yeah, and you know,
I heard someone today that was used to work for me that at Box that is now VC, and she was saying, it's like I'm really big into consumer tech because enterprise is really hard. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Enterprise is hard.
You're right. I think as you see, a lot of these things don't change that fast.
Yeah.
And you have to interoperate. There's no idea, like, you can't go to another URL and suddenly the world changes when you see in the consumer space, as you know, right? So I think that's the big difference for a lot of these companies to kind of get to the enterprise. It takes a lot of heavy lift.
Yeah.
And it's a tough market and tough business, and it requires a lot of one-to-one direct selling
Let's
and relationship.
kill products in the enterprise as easily. Like what I
Oh,
tell
yes.
my team is, what's worse than having 0 customers? Having 1 customer.
That is true. You're right.
Yeah, kill the product in some
That's
point.
a very good
And
insight.
and the consumer, you can actually just say, okay, this product's discontinued next month.
Yeah, no, that's a good point you make. And I don't think so that a lot of enterprise software ever die. They evolve, they remain, and you have to work around them, as you know, right? So
They become zombies for a while.
but they're still around.
They're still around. And so tell us a little bit about what ServiceNow is doing in AI and workflows. You folks have done a really good job because you started with ITSM, but then you built this platform on top of which you've got all these applications that get built. And before you know it, like you're kind of automating workflows in every industry, in every application, in every function in the business. Tell us about what you're doing that's unique in AI, and what was it that surprised you when you first came to ServiceNow?
Yeah, it's good questions. I think you're right. You think about ServiceNow, it's still a platform company.
Yep.
They started with ITSM, which is really a request fulfillment kind of a process.
The ticketing system.
Ticketing system, right? But the application of that kind of use cases applies to so many different things. You look at HR, finance, procurement. So they were very smart about taking the platform, making it a pure platform.
Are they all largely back office functions, or do you also do front office functions?
We do now, there is a whole CRM front office as well, so customer service especially.
Yep.
Because what is a customer service? It's asking for some kind of resolution to some issue you might be having.
Yep.
So as you think about ServiceNow, it's really this platform which allows you to automate things.
Yep.
A business process touches so many different things. Typically, each system of record only does their part. For ServiceNow is kind of the glue connecting an enterprise end to end. So that's the platform. It's one platform, one data model, one architecture. What they've done over the last many years, and what we're extending since I've joined, is really making sure AI is the integral part of the platform. Last couple of years, ServiceNow released this product called Now Assist, which provides kind of generative AI capabilities to allow case workers or even users, employees to get much more better productivity as well as getting insights into their request. Now what we've done is we just released today Yokohama release, which is a large release, which brings agentic, which has AI agents orchestrators, as well as Studio to allow you to be using a no-code tool to build AI agents.
I see.
So this allows you to now connect those workflows, but bring the automation to it in a much more AI-centric way. And customers steadily start using the same platform and are getting the agentic capabilities in the same platform.
Do you think that in 2025, you will see what percentage of your software code will be written by AI in 25, you think? And then what do you think will happen in 26 and 27?
I think it's getting there. I mean, this year I would say across the stock, because we are very different kind of code bases across different products. Of course, I would say we'll get to probably 8 to 10% if we are on the aggressive side.
Okay.
I think there's going to be a lot more documentation, as well as a lot of test code being written through AI. A lot of the back-end code, I think, is less. Front-end code, yes.
Yeah.
So if you break it up, I think on the QA side, probably 15%.
JavaScript, Python, much more. You'll have a harder time with.
On the back-end server side. But I think we are seeing a decent amount of adoption across our engineering teams and the QA teams. As well as design is using a lot of AI tools to improve what kind of user experience they want to build, how do we automate that, and all kind of stuff. So I think 5 to 10% across the board, and over the next few years, easily 20-25% over the next probably 5 years for sure.
And so does your staffing model change quite dramatically in the next 5 years on, like, what do you think happens in 5 years? Do you think 50, 60, 70% of the code's written by AI agents, or do you think that it's still a pretty low number?
I think it's probably lower than that in terms of the real code written.
Yeah.
I think there'll be usage of AI to help automate and all kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think they will also be able to kind of do a lot of integration work, a lot of API creation work. But the code design, look, as you know, the engineers just don't do coding, right? So I would say 70% of the time is still on architecture, design, integration, dependency analysis. So that might get better with AI.
Yeah.
But the real code could be higher percentage, but the engineer's day will be probably supported by AI in like 20-25%.
Got it. And if you think of where you've seen the most amount of uplift in ServiceNow and the kind of workflows that have been automated internally for you,
Yep.
as a company, how many employees is ServiceNow now?
26,000 plus.
26,000. what's your take over there?
So it depends on each line of business, right? So on the engineering, as I talked about, I think we're seeing a lot of good adoption from QA, engineering, design. But the biggest adoption is customer service for sure. We are seeing a huge deflection rate using AI. So our human agents who kind of support customers are having to do less of those mundane, basic answering questions because AI is able to do that. A lot of things are happening to conversational AI as well.
The cool top, this is what we're seeing over there, Amit. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, that was
The
good.
thing that is, I think 90 to 95% of the inbound inquiries will actually be solved through a voice agent that's non-human.
Yeah.
But they'll be indistinguishable from a human, where you'll be able to interrupt it, you'll be able to make sure it
Yes.
takes a different direction. That was something that wasn't there as recently as like a year and a half ago.
You're right. You're right. I think the technology didn't have that human feel to it, right? And you could not, it's not a conversation, right? And then multilingual as well, right? So we talk to a lot of customers who, and we are seeing ourselves as well, be able to now support customers in so many different languages. We could not staff that kind of resources, and we could not afford to have that many resources in every language in every country. So this idea that you can now do multilingual quickly and easily, and in a very much a natural language as appropriate. I think it'll keep on getting better. We're seeing a lot of adoption around legal, sales, contracting. So AI is used internally at ServiceNow to really kind of look at all the contract, what risks you have when you're renewing, what kind of terms you need to look at, and be able to pull data about the customer, financial information. So that's happening a lot. Sales in terms of how you manage your pipeline. So each of the line of businesses are, I'm sure you, I mean, I'd love to hear from you in terms of what you guys are seeing. But across ServiceNow, it's become pretty valuable and something which is pervasive across our organization now.
I think like for us, the big use cases, coding is a big one.
Yeah.
And I'm personally, have a lot of energy and pushing and seeing if we can actually get that. But by the way, people keep thinking, well, am I going to lose my job as a developer?
Sure.
You would if I was running out of ideas, but my idea list is far greater than my resource list.
Yeah.
And so if we can actually quintuple our capacity, theoretically, you could keep, we'll still be hiring people. It's just a matter of like, what do we need to do to make sure that we can drive faster and get more?
You're right. We never stop building software.
You never stop building software. And last I checked, my idea list is very, very long that I can't go out and prosecute because I'm short on resources.
Yeah, we use this term scale without scaling, right? You can't land up having every time, just anytime you want to do, you're stuck waiting for resources to do that, right? So
the second area that I've actually seen a huge amount of demand signal is just making sure that any kind of support tickets that come in, we just solve those through AI. And our CX team has done a great job on that front with AI. But the third thing then is, I think HR onboarding is going to be a big one.
Yes, yes.
Where people, when they come in, they should just be able to have a companion that they can just have as a coach. That any question they want to get answered, they get answered. And so I'm hoping that ServiceNow does some really cool
stuff. No, you should. I mean, this is, and I know you're a customer of ServiceNow, so thank you for that. And
thanks for being a customer.
Yeah, it's a great relationship in that regards, and we're getting a lot of value out of Cisco products as well. I think the thing we have done with HR onboarding and in general, this whole employee experience, there's all these agents now been delivered. The Yokohama release I mentioned. I would look forward to you all using that and giving us feedback. But it's exciting in terms of what you could do with an onboarding agent, AI agent, but also helping you through your journey as you learn new skills, you're moving departments, all that kind of stuff. And this is what ServiceNow is very good at, is helping you through your whole enterprise journey.
So what surprised you when you joined ServiceNow?
Sure, and I think I have followed ServiceNow for many years, been in the enterprise space. Of course, they used to talk about one platform, they're able to go into a lot of workflows. And from external, given I have built platform software for a long time, I now could believe that they could really do that.
Yeah.
So I thought, there'll be mixture of different technologies and all kinds of stuff.
Start getting hype.
Versus reality. But once I got there, I was very impressed with the technology stack. The founder, Fred Luddy, has really thought through this, and they've really kept true to the principle. Second, I think, is the whole humility and humbleness. Very, very impressive. I mean, there's people who are, I've been there only 4 months, and I feel I've been working there for many, many years because they're very accepting, willingness to listen and get new ideas into it and have a good conversation and move fast. It's like a 20-year-old startup, which I did not expect, by the way. I thought it'll be, I've worked in
Is
enterprise.
ServiceNow 20 years old?
Yeah, it's 20 years old, and
Amazing.
it is 20 years old now. And they have really accelerated the growth. And Bill, who's the CEO, Bill McDermott, amazing vision, amazing ability to really
He's a
articulate.
force of nature.
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm learning so much from his ability to kind of explain things and really be focused on what we need to do and how we grow this. He has a lot of ambition for the company.
Yeah.
And we were like 11 billion on revenue now and growing at 20+%. And of course, he wants to do more and more of it.
And
And
next stop is what, 20?
yes, that's the next journey. And there's a lot of work to be done, but the people are all in, and the great cultures, and they're very customer centric. It's like, what do we need to do for customers? So those are things been very, very
I
fun.
can attest to that because
Yeah.
like we have a great experience with you folks on
Good.
our teams on the products we use.
The people roll their sleeves, and as you've probably seen that, like there's a lot of engagement and involvement with a lot of things. In terms of surprises, I think the opportunity is immense. They have, of course, focused on a few areas. So what I have done over the last many months is really think about how we build an open ecosystem. Right, so we were building our own models and made sense for domain-specific, very specific use cases. Now we are partnering with all the large language model provider. Right, we are working with Google, with OpenAI.
How do you see that playing out?
I think it depends on what the use cases are, right? And also a lot of times customers have preference for something. So what we're doing internally inside our engineering team is we do prompt engineering for each of these models, make sure that they all work on par wherever it's possible. So when customer decides that they want to use a particular hyperscaler with a particular model, we give them choice. I don't want to be saying this is the only way or you will not be able to use the products. So that's what now that we run on all hyperscalers, right? The same product, by the way. There's nothing different in any of this thing. We run on our own data center as well as we support all these models as well as open source models. So customers suddenly start seeing a lot of opportunity and choices, and they might have preference for something. We can at least support them that way, and that's helping with a lot of our conversations with the customers.
Is the market of language models already commoditized, where they all, in your mind, seem generally equal, or is there enough variance between these models? And how does DeepSeek and China play into it?
Yeah, I don't think it's still evolving, as you can imagine. I would say some of the models which we work with, we do a lot of R&D development early on. So it's not like picking it off the shelf. So we have good relationship with all the engineering teams because we are one of the large enterprise software companies trying to really use this at scale. Second thing, the reasoning engines are evolving as well. So a lot of the things we do in agentic is around reasoning more than anything else. So that's where we do a lot of help and training with those companies. So with Google and OpenAI, and so we have a very close engineering relationship, right? And then we also take in open source technologies like Llama and Mistral. DeepSeek we have in our labs. We test it against it to compare things so we can learn from a lot of these things. There's, of course, been a China-based, there are a lot of enterprise customers who might not make that as the first preference, and we completely understand that. So as I said, the choice is there. And our goal is to be early on with those providers to test and train as well as know what we can expect. So we can direct our customers what will make sense, what doesn't make sense.
Do you anticipate tens of models? Do you anticipate hundreds? Do you anticipate thousands of models over time?
I think lesser. I don't expect a lot more. There might be a lot of open source variants. There might be also a lot of domain specific, I would say verticalized models. We might be seeing that, but we've been more of a horizontal end-to-end business provider where you want to make sure businesses operate end-to-end. We need little more broader based capabilities, and there are some industry solutions we provide. So we have healthcare, we have retail, we have telecommunication, financial. So there we are looking at.
Are you building your own models?
We do have a team which builds our own models, which are domain specific to those healthcare needs and others. We're also taking models which might be domain specific as well. But typically for the core services are those big, large language
main foundation
models. Yes,
the frontier models. So let's talk about agentic AI real quickly, and then I also want to talk about the partnership that the two of us have. But what is unique about agentic in this era? And do you AI has historically been something that does portion of a task. Now we're thinking about automating full tasks.
Yes.
Do you think that full jobs get automated over time? And what's the progression look like?
For sure. I think I'm starting to see this already happening in a lot of those use cases around customer service. Employee onboarding is a very good example, or employee even like productivity, where when a user wants to get something that if you're going on a PTO or maternity, you want to touch like 7, 8 systems. because you're going to go to your HR system, you're going to go to your payroll, you're going to go to benefits, you're going to go to your management things, OKRs, whatever may be changing, customer dashboard to let customers know you're leaving for some time and who will replace you. So there are a lot of systems are getting touched. And what agentic is able to do is, especially with ServiceNow, given the 20 years of workflow experience, we know if somebody asks that, what are things you need to do? We're able to now break that request into like 8 or 10 tasks. And these AI agents, each of these tasks will go and do these individual pieces. The orchestration engine is able to compile that together, compare to an outcome it should get based on the historical information we have, what the workflow should do. And before it goes back to the users, hey, we finished all these things, or might go to an agent, like a human agent, saying, are you okay with this thing, and should we commit that into the system, and then get that work task done. So I do expect the full end-to-end things to be done with agentic. There'll be human on the loop, versus having to do each part of it.
Yep.
And they can now supervise many things versus doing only one task itself. And that automates, improves, while long-running transaction can be all completed without somebody having to check every day.
And it's a very important point that you just made, which is rather than the human in the loop, there's going to be a human on the loop, where you can almost have someone doing the oversight.
Yes.
And then the AI is doing the task, and then you'll have humans doing the oversight on the model. Right? Where does Cisco fit into the calculus with ServiceNow? I have a strong opinion on why we wanted to partner with you folks, but tell us about how you're thinking about it.
No, I think, as you know, we've been working with Cisco for a long time. There's a lot of opportunities, one around security. And people don't realize ServiceNow has a pretty large security and risk management business, because we do incident management and vulnerability management as the whole workflow.
Yep.
So we're getting data from various different sources, and CISOs and CIOs use us as the workflow engine behind the scenes inside the enterprise. So working with Cisco on the security front end and connecting all the different things, we've been doing some of that stuff, but there's an opportunity to do even more there.
Yep.
Second, of course, that we are running our own data centers today in many places, while we also work with hyperscalers. There's a huge amount of work we do with Cisco in some of these areas, with networking areas, things around performance management and other things like that. There's a lot of those opportunities where we're trying to solve similar problems with similar kind of customers.
Yep.
And if we can integrate those products better, we can create some more seamlessness across it and find those 5, 6 good use cases. I mean, I think that's a lot of opportunity for us to collaborate and take those products to market.
I think we just built a product called AI Defense, which I think are going to have a lot of kind of synergy with ServiceNow. Yeah. And so we'll, the market should expect a lot of cross-product integration. And to your point earlier, this notion of an open ecosystem where we all don't think about a zero-sum game, but we interoperate with the ecosystem is super important. Let's go macro for a moment. Things that have really surprised you about AI, and things that have disappointed you on the progress today that you thought we would have been farther along up until now that you haven't seen happen?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I would say things which are definitely surprised me is becoming very hard to distinguish between AI and non-AI content. It's I expected a lot of evolution in that area, but didn't realize it'll become so human-like. If you look at videos or images.
What do you mean? Like it's hard to tell?
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, AI has become so good at kind of producing a lot of this content.
Yeah.
It is a little worrying, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think it's faster than I expected. Other vendors catching up with large language models. There have a couple of top ones, of course, OpenAI and Google been there. But to see so many of them in less than 18 months to be equivalent, if not better in some cases, I didn't expect that to be that fast, because of the amount of capital expected, amount of training data you need, as well as the amount of engineering capabilities you require. You need a lot of good AI engineers and people in neural networks and other things like that. But I'm amazed at the pace of how fast so many vendors have been able to produce so much good capabilities.
What are you worried about the most?
I think there are a few things. No doubt, data privacy. I do feel it's getting a little kind of concerning, especially on the consumer side for sure. But even enterprise, I know a lot of enterprises worry about, will that data get leaked somewhere, and especially if you're unregulated industries or financial services. And how is that being used to train? Given the pace of change and everybody's competing so aggressively, I don't know if there's enough safeguards.
Yeah.
And our vendors being careful about it. And there are a lot of new startups who might not really think about how enterprises are impacted because you want to compete fast. So are there enough thoughtfulness behind it? Because the space of innovation is so fast and the competition is so intense that people might cut corners. So how do you really ensure? And that's why I think I tell customers, make sure you really talk to your vendors or your providers, and are they really been putting a lot of effort behind privacy, data, as well as customer information, and keeping that very, very preserved.
And if you were to say, what are people overestimating about AI's capabilities, what would that be?
I think they're overestimating that they'll replace humans. I
So
don't.
you don't think humans get replaced? Do you think jobs go away?
I think the new kind of jobs will get created. Some jobs will go away, but I don't think it completely goes away. It might change in terms of how you do those jobs.
Yeah.
I think AI is going to be, no doubt, we talked about assistants, but now task completion or even creating content, all that stuff is in support of what you're doing day to day in many cases, right? I think you might do less of something and do more of something else because of AI. So I don't think jobs go away. I mean, new jobs are coming out, as you know, right? I mean, we've been hiring prompt engineers. We didn't need that before. We're doing a lot of work around testing or distilling things around that in terms of the large language models. You need new engineers for that one. We're doing a lot of work around labeling and all, which are kind of figuring out AI content. So a lot of new things are emerging.
And so if I sit on the board of Scale.
Oh yeah.
It's really fascinating to see what's happening on the data labeling side of the house, right? But if you were to fast forward, let's say, I don't know, 3 years.
Mhm.
Anything beyond 3 years, it's impossible to predict
Sure.
right now because the market's moving so fast that even 3 might be hard to predict. But what new jobs do you think that don't exist today that come out then?
That's a hard one. I mean, I think as I said, some of the things we just talked about will be new things will come out. I think a lot of how you manage content. What kind of privacy, as you said, safeguards you want to create. You might increase more people in security. You will need to hire a lot of people who manage data repositories.
The amount of security practitioners will go up as a result of this.
I do think so, yes. I think the security is going to be, especially now you can.
There's another argument, which is that you're going to automate security,
Yeah.
that you might need less people, but you don't think that that's...
I think you might automate the security in terms of finding vulnerabilities.
Yep.
Or you might get a lot of content. But then how do you, given that you're connecting so many things together now, and a lot of your models, your systems are now getting into things you probably didn't think they would be, right? So now how do you ensure there are enough people who understand that implications, the measuring and managing that? There's a lot of risk and governance requirements now, which is going up a lot more. Because a lot of this thing, automation is getting things done, but now somebody needs to make sure that what the outcome is meets the risk requirements or governance needs. So
Amit, two asks or pieces of advice maybe that I'll ask you to offer to our viewers. Let's say that there's someone early in career coming in, and then someone who is in the enterprise. What advice would you have for both those groups of people?
I think anybody's coming in new, especially in the software space. Definitely there's no way out other than learning about AI technologies, right? And there could be different aspects of it, but at least be familiar with what that means for your job and get some real world training using these tools and technologies and really get networked with people who are doing the next cutting edge things. I think a lot of the changes are happening are because a lot of new people coming into the industry with AI background. I mean, the AI has been around for a long, long time, but with the technology which has changed, is changing how you do things. So a lot of the engineers which we're hiring now, they have a lot of great ideas because they are playing with a lot more tools like this than, as you asked, like engineers who've been there for like 8, 10 years or 5, 7 years, they might have missed some of these experiences because all the colleges are now really deep into this. So as a new engineer coming in, make sure that you bring that ideas and showcase that to your employer or people you're talking to. And that will add a lot of value to your career as well as to...
Try to get used to having AI as a companion with you.
Yes.
Because otherwise you're probably not going to be as effective.
Yeah.
I always tell people, like, don't worry about your job going away to AI, but worry about someone who uses AI better than you, who takes your job away.
Yeah, don't fight secular trends, right?
Yeah.
I mean, these are a reality. Because if you had said that 20 years, I'll not do things on the internet, you would be a dinosaur. You'd not be doing any jobs anymore, right? Similar, this one is a reality, right? So,
And what would your advice be to enterprises?
Enterprises, I think I mean, AI is here, and I think there's a lot of value to be had. I think enterprises are seeing that. A lot of times, I think they're struggling whether they want to build it in-house or they want to buy products to do those kind of things.
Yeah.
And the pace of innovation and change is so high, it's better to make sure AI capable products are brought in versus trying to do everything from ground up, right? And then the changes are, even if you start with something, it's going to change very fast. I mean, our releases are changing every week, every month. To really ensure we partner with someone who's thinking about the future and not just kind of trying to keep up,
Yeah.
right? So work with companies, I mean, who are investing and making an AI first platforms.
On that front, like maybe both of us should answer this question for the enterprises. What should companies expect from ServiceNow and Cisco jointly?
Yeah, I think this continuous innovation and investment, right? And I think making it, I think as you talked about ecosystem, making things a little more easier, simpler, seamless,
Yeah.
so that there is a value created. Because otherwise, you land up two vendors coming together, but when they're two different discrete pieces, it just sounds more marketing than.
Exactly.
And I think that's where the engineering relationships matter, right? A lot of these things you see announcements in the market, we are going to work together, but it's really go to market a lot of times.
Yeah.
But if you don't do changes in the engineering side, and there's product integration, thoughtfulness around use cases, and making it seamless, that's where the value would be if we do more of those things.
You know, one of the ways that I measure a good partnership is when the partner actually gives me people that they think I should hire, and vice versa. And I think both of us have done that.
Yeah, that's true. Yes,
That's worked out well. And so thank you for some of the recommendations you've given us.
I'm glad it worked.
Well,
Yeah, no, I've been talking to some of the folks you.
Yeah.
So
so I do feel like there's this kind of zero-sum mentality that has to go away in software, and
Yeah.
two companies need to partner and make sure that the collective pie goes up and the opportunity goes up for the customer. So I think we should expect Cisco and ServiceNow to be long-standing partners over the course of the next many years. And I'm really hoping you come back.
Next
And maybe we do a demo of a product and the
That'd be great.
integration that we've actually done. So any other closing thoughts
No,
for
thanks.
the audience?
Thanks for having me, and I think definitely value the relationship we have with Cisco, and I think our customers are benefiting as we do more and more with it.
Sure.
There's a lot of things we are doing, and I look forward to kind of sharing that more regularly, and hopefully everybody finds it exciting and useful.
Congratulations on all the success, Amit.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeetu. Same to you. Yeah.